Treason is not the reason for the season. Episode 4, Shays Rebellion. By the end of the Revolutionary War, states had accumulated huge war debts, federal currency was worthless, and hyperinflation was destroying the economy. Everyone was struggling. The King of France had supported the colonialists during the Revolutionary War to the tune of 1.3 billion livres, which put France into severe debt, which created some of the conditions that led to the French Revolution 6 years later, in 1789. The colonies were in similarly dire straits. Daniel Shays fought the British in the Revolutionary War, achieving the rank of captain. When he returned home to rural western Massachusetts, he was taken to court for debts he had not paid while serving his country. Shays was never paid for his service, so he had no money to pay his debts. Many farmers in western Massachusetts were in a similar bind. In August of 1786, Shays and a group of farmers forced the debtors' courts to shut down. As the rebellion grew, it gained about 4,000 followers. In January of 1787, Shays marched 1,500 men on the federal armory in Springfield, Massachusetts in an attempt to seize its weapons and wage a full-fledged insurrection. Ben Franklin referred to Shays Rebellion as a dangerous insurrection. George Washington referred to Shays Rebellion as a cloud of evils. John Adams would call Shays Rebellion an act of terrorism. Sam Adams advocated that the leaders of Shays Rebellion be quickly executed. In monarchies, the crime of treason and rebellion may admit of being pardoned or lightly punished, but the man who dares rebel against the laws of a republic ought to suffer death. Sam Adams. When some militia as terrorism traitor tries to argue that the founders intended for militias to overthrow the government, read them that quote, "The man who dares rebel against the laws of a republic ought to suffer death." While the Declaration of Independence established a right to throw off illegitimate government, it also required that the government being thrown off be completely despotic to justify the revolt. And clearly, most of the founders thought Shays was not fighting a despotic government. Clearly, most of the founders did not take the Declaration of Independence to be a blank check for insurrectionists to take up arms whenever they disagreed with their government. The Articles of Confederation did not give the federal government the power to collect taxes, therefore the federal government had little money to raise an army to fight Shays and put down his rebellion. Instead, Shays' rebellion was stopped by a militia organized by the governor of Massachusetts. Shays' rebellion caused many to see just how vulnerable the country was under the Articles of Confederation. What the founders did in response to Shays' rebellion was to completely redesign their government to be able to crush rebellions like Shays'. When faced with a private, anonymous, group of armed men trying to overthrow the U.S. government, the founders roundly condemned them, not praised them.